Crazy week for clowns making absolute fools of themselves at sporting events in the stands.
Sometimes you need that reset. Oh.
And Bader just unloads on this one. Deep left field, and that one is gone as Bader.
We had the Polish millionaire CEO who stole the hat from that kid.
A Karen decided it was a good idea to steal a home run ball from a little boy.
And now, I'm sure a lot of you have already seen the clip, we have this Karen at a Phillies game steal a baseball from a kid.
Have you ever seen a moment so petty, so jaw-droppingly entitled, that it flips from comedy to full-blown scandal in the span of seconds? That's exactly what happened at a Philadelphia Phillies game when a simple foul ball spiraled into one of the most viral meltdowns of the year. On the surface, it looked like just another fan moment. But within hours, this clip had exploded across TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube, transforming one woman from an anonymous face in the crowd into a worldwide symbol of how not to behave. And here's the thing, this wasn't just about a baseball. It was about something bigger. It was about what happens when entitlement collides with innocence, when sports traditions meant to bring people together get taken over by selfishness, and when the internet decides to turn one fan's 15 seconds into a permanent punchline. But before we get into the memes, the outrage, and the cultural fallout, let's rewind. Because to understand why this blew up the way it did, you have to see exactly how the moment unfolded. It all started with what should have been one of the purest traditions in baseball, a kid getting a ball. Every fan knows the magic of that moment. A father or mother handing the ball to their child, a memory that sticks for life. But on this particular night at Citizens Bank Park, that magic was taken over. A foul ball bounced into the stands. A father scooped it up cleanly. No scramble, no fight. Just one of those quick reactions that every fan dreams of.
Now, when a home run is actually hit, folks, fans will actually try and get the ball. And in the video, to me, man, it looks pretty clear that the boy's father got the ball.
Without hesitation, he placed the ball in his son's hands. That should have been the end of the story. A wholesome snapshot of why we love sports. But then, out of nowhere, came the interruption. A woman stormed toward them, yelling, flailing, and demanding that the ball was hers. She hadn't caught it. She hadn't even controlled it. But that didn't stop her. In seconds, she snatched it straight out of the child's hands. The contradiction couldn't have been sharper. Baseball is supposed to be about joy, innocence, and community. Instead, this turned into a live display of selfishness. Witnesses described the scene as surreal, like watching a parody unfold in real time. The boy, holding back tears, looked crushed. The dad looked stunned, his hands frozen in midair, as if he couldn't believe what had just happened. And the woman, instead of realizing her mistake or apologizing, she doubled down.
It's like she was made in a lab to be a Karen. She just epitomizes the meaning behind the insult.
She screeched, pointed fingers, and gloated as though she'd won some grand prize. But in reality, she had just lost something far more valuable, the respect of everyone around her. Within seconds, spectators pulled out their phones. Dozens of cameras caught her tantrum from every angle. And that was the spark that would ignite the internet. Because here's the truth. In 2025, there's no such thing as an anonymous meltdown in public. The second she grabbed that ball, she wasn't just arguing with a father and his son. She was stepping onto a global stage, one she would regret for the rest of her life.
Hey, get out of there! Hear it!
Yeah, she lost her mind. This woman completely lost her mind.
When the clip hit social media, it spread like wildfire. Fans weren't just watching a dispute over a foul ball. They were watching entitlement captured in its purest form. And the internet loves nothing more than a villain. On TikTok, the clip racked up millions of views within hours. Users stitched it into parodies, setting her shrieks to horror movie soundtracks and circus music. Some compared her to a cartoon character brought to life, exaggerated in every motion, every scream. One top comment summed it up perfectly. She looks like a dementor feeding on happiness. On Twitter, fans dissected the moment frame by frame like it was a crime scene. Did she ever actually touch the ball? Did she graze it? Was she rewriting history to justify snatching it later? The consensus was savage. She didn't catch it. She didn't own it. She simply stole it from a child.
But from where the guy in the red shirt gets it, it seems too far away for them to have reached it. So I think what happened is they might have tried to get it, and they might have even, touched it, but it doesn't look like they ever actually grabbed it. It looks more like they were trying to recover a fumble in football and it got away from them.
And the more angles surfaced, the worse her story looked. Even sports blogs and mainstream outlets picked up the footage. Headlines branded her the Phillies Karen. Memes compared her to the Polish CEO who had gone viral just days earlier for snatching a hat from a boy at the US Open. Suddenly, she wasn't just a random fan. She was part of a bigger, uglier trend. Adults stealing joy from kids in the stands. And here's what made it sting even more. Fans weren't laughing with her. her. They were laughing at her. Some called her screeches a jump scare. Others edited her face into grotesque caricatures. Even Philadelphia fans, a crowd famous for defending outrageous behavior, turned against her. If you can't win over Philly fans, you know you've gone too far.
Wow. This is pathetic.
But this wasn't just about memes or laughs. What really cemented her downfall was the emotional detail everyone kept pointing back to. The boy's crushed expression. That single image flipped the narrative from funny to infuriating. Because when you insult a child in front of thousands of fans, the internet doesn't forgive. It unites against you. And that's exactly what happened here. Within days, this woman wasn't just a fan who had a bad night. She was a cultural villain, a meme, and a cautionary tale rolled into one. And what came next would only deepen her insult. For all the memes and jokes, the real weight of this moment didn't come from the woman screeching. It came from the look on that kid's face. In the flood of clips and camera angles, one image kept resurfacing. A boy who just moments earlier had been glowing with excitement, now standing there with his joy stolen. And that was the detail that hit people hardest. You see, baseball has this almost sacred tradition. Generations of fans talk about catching their first ball, the pure thrill of holding a piece of the game in your hands. For kids, it's a dream come true, a keepsake that can make an ordinary night unforgettable. But in this case, that dream was ripped away in seconds.
I had to cut the audio from this part here because of a song that plays during it, but she gets right up in this guy's face barking at him. So I'm guessing he was saying something about like her behavior being embarrassing or something, so she did not take that lightly.
Viewers couldn't get over how quickly innocence turned into heartbreak. The boy's dad tried to play it off, keeping calm so the situation wouldn't escalate. You can even see him in the footage, frozen, almost shrugging, like he'd rather swallow the insult than start a full-blown fight in front of his son. That restraint made the contrast even sharper. On one side, a parent trying to protect his child's memory. On the other, an adult throwing a tantrum over a ball that wasn't hers. And that's where the internet drew the line. The memes about her shrieks were funny at first, but the moment the camera cut to the boy's downcast face, the tone shifted. Comment sections filled with words like cruel, heartless, and disgusting. Suddenly, it wasn't just a Karen moment. It was a betrayal. Fans online weren't just roasting her. They were angry, united in outrage that anyone could treat a kid like that. It's a pattern we've seen before. Viral clips often start as entertainment, but they only go truly global when there's an emotional anchor. In this case, that anchor was a child's disappointment. It transformed the incident from a goofy stadium meltdown into a story that people felt. It wasn't just about who touched the ball first, it was about entitlement-crushing innocence right before our eyes. That shift explains why the clip didn't fade out after a day or two. It spread for weeks because it tapped into something bigger than baseball. It reminded people of every unfair moment, every time a kid lost out to an adult's selfishness. And the woman? Instead of fading back into anonymity, she became the face of that betrayal. But here's where the story takes an even sharper turn, because while the internet was roasting her, the Phillies organization stepped in. And what they did next didn't just change the boy's night, it delivered a savage dose of karma that the entire world could see. When the Phillies organization realized what had happened, they didn't hesitate. According to fans in the stands, word spread quickly to stadium staff. And before the boy and his father could leave that section, players and staff had already stepped in with something extraordinary, a signed bat. Not just a ball, not just a replacement, but an upgrade that transformed the whole experience. The symbolism couldn't have been clearer. While the woman clutched a foul ball tainted with insult, the child walked away with a treasure that held real meaning, a gift backed by the entire team. The internet immediately latched onto that irony, calling the ball in her hands cursed and radioactive. One viral comment joked, "She's holding the infinity stone of shame." Another said, "That ball's worth less than a parking ticket now." But the Phillies' response wasn't just about kindness. Insiders later suggested it was also about brand protection. Teams today know that viral fan moments can live longer than the games themselves. A clip like this has the power to define public perception, not just of the fan, but of the organization. By rewarding the boy instantly, the Phillies made sure they were on the right side of history. It wasn't just a gesture, it was a PR masterstroke, and the internet loved it. Instead of headlines about a kid going home in tears, the story flipped. Now it was about a boy walking away with a priceless souvenir, while the woman became a national punchline. She thought she'd won a prize. Instead, she ended up holding a symbol of disgrace. What made it even worse for her was how quickly comparisons started rolling in. Just days earlier, remember, a millionaire CEO had gone viral for stealing a tennis player's hat from a boy at the US Open. That incident had already been branded one of the worst fan moments of the year. And now, barely a week week later, here was another adult caught stealing from a child in the stands. Side-by-side edits exploded across social media. The CEO and the Phillies fan were spliced together with captions like, "Meet the sports villains of 2025. YouTubers made compilation videos roasting both, while Reddit threads demanded lifetime bans. Suddenly, she wasn't just the villain of one baseball game. She was part of a larger, uglier trend, entitled adults robbing kids of joy. And that's what elevated her from a local embarrassment to a global meme. The Phillies. Karen wasn't just another bad fan anymore. She was a cultural symbol, lumped into a hall of shame that no one wants to join. And the cruel irony? She had done it all to herself, in front of thousands, with cameras rolling. But the fallout didn't stop there. Because once the footage kept circulating, people started digging deeper. Multiple camera angles surfaced, and what they revealed would completely shatter the defense she tried to cling to. The timing of this meltdown couldn't have been worse. Just as the Phillies incident was exploding online, another viral controversy was still fresh in everyone's mind. The Polish millionaire CEO who snatched a tennis player's hat right out of a young fan's hands at the US Open. That clip had already been dubbed one of the worst fan moments of 2025. And now, in the same week, another adult was caught stealing from a kid in a stadium. The internet thrives on patterns, and it didn't take long before people began linking the two scandals together. TikTok edits sliced the CEO and the Phillies fan side by side, complete with captions like, "Meet the villains of sports 2025. Reddit threads went wild, suggesting there should be a hall of shame dedicated to adults who ruin childhood memories. Even YouTubers got in on the action, creating compilations of the two incidents with circus music blaring in the background. And the escalation didn't stop there. Commentators started asking bigger questions. What is happening to fan culture? Why are adults increasingly acting like children in places meant for kids? Sports writer Will Lee went viral with a tweet that read, "First the CEO steals a hat, now a Karen steals a ball. What's next? Someone ripping cotton candy out of a toddler's hands?" That line was quoted everywhere, turning the story into a cultural punchline. Late-night shows even jumped on the bandwagon. Jimmy Kimmel quipped during his monologue, "We had a millionaire stealing a hat and now a Phillies fan stealing a ball. What's next? The Pope tackling a kid for cotton candy." The audience erupted, and just like that, her insult crossed into mainstream entertainment. This wasn't just about one woman anymore. It became part of a narrative, a cultural moment where entitlement was exposed, ridiculed, and magnified. And the comparisons made her look even worse. Because unlike the millionaire CEO, who at least had status and reputation to lose, she was just an anonymous fan. Yet by behaving the way she did, she ended up branded with the same scarlet letter of public disgrace. What the internet made clear was this: when scandals overlap, outrage multiplies. Each incident feeds the other, creating a snowball effect. Instead of fading, her story was amplified by being tied to another. She wasn't just a bad fan in Philadelphia. She was the latest installment in a growing series of sports meltdowns, a trend people couldn't stop watching. And while the memes and jokes piled up, the woman tried desperately to defend herself. But her defense didn't just fall flat. It collapsed completely once new footage began to surface. From the very beginning, the woman clung to one story: that the father had ripped the ball right out of her hands. Over and over in shaky phone clips captured from the stands, you can hear her screaming, "He took it from me! He ripped it away!" She pointed at the boy's dad, gesturing wildly, as if the crowd might rally behind her version. But the problem with that defense is simple. In 2025, eyewitness accounts don't matter as much as footage. And when dozens of phones are rolling, every angle gets revealed. Soon after the clip went viral, alternate videos started popping up on TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Fans analyzed them like detectives, slowing them down frame by frame, tracking the ball's path as if it were a forensic investigation. And the conclusion was savage. The ball had clearly bounced into the father's reach. He scooped it up cleanly before handing it to his son. At no point did she actually control the ball. Maybe she brushed it, maybe she reached for it, but there was no proof she ever had possession. Her "he stole it from me" narrative simply didn't match what the cameras showed. Sports vloggers had a field day. One even overlaid the footage with football commentary, comparing her flailing to a fumble recovery gone wrong. Another broke it down like an NFL replay, drawing circles and arrows on the slow-motion footage to prove that her hands never fully closed around the ball. It was funny, it was insulting, and it left no room for her excuse. Even local insiders weighed in. A Philadelphia sports radio host reported that stadium security quietly confirmed with ushers in the section that the dad had grabbed the ball outright before giving it to his son. No wrestling, no ripping, just a clean catch. That detail, broadcast the next morning, sealed her reputation. Not only had she taken the ball from a child, she had tried to rewrite history while surrounded by cameras. And that's the part the internet never forgives. People can accept a bad mistake. They might even forgive an embarrassing meltdown. But lying about it while the footage proves otherwise, that's what cements someone as a villain. Her defense, meant to save face, ended up making everything worse. Instead of calming the outrage, it poured gasoline on it. She didn't just lose the crowd in the stadium, she lost the crowd online. And in the age of viral media, once your excuse is disproven in high definition, there's no coming back. But as bad as the collapse of her defense was, the insult in the stands was even worse. Because while the internet roasted her from afar, the live crowd turned her meltdown into a spectacle, booing and laughing in her face. And that was the next stage of her downfall. If the internet's reaction was savage, the live crowd's response was even worse. Because remember, this wasn't happening in a vacuum. Thousands of fans were there watching in real time, and they didn't hold back. As soon as she snatched the ball, the boos started raining down. Spectators pointed, laughed, and booed her like she was a villain on stage. And instead of walking away, instead of cutting her losses and disappearing into the crowd, she escalated. She circled the section, screeching at anyone who roasted her, wagging her finger in strangers' faces, practically begging for more attention. One clip that went viral shows her storming toward another fan who dared to call her out. She barked like she was in a shouting contest, while the man filming chuckled into his phone, "Yeah, you tell it," before breaking into laughter. In that moment, she wasn't just a fan at a baseball game anymore. She was an unwilling performer in a live theater production, a villain in front of a jeering audience with every second recorded. The more she defended herself, the worse it looked. Eyewitnesses said she spent minutes pacing, pointing, and yelling, even as the boy she'd taken the ball from stood quietly with tears in his eyes. The contrast was almost cinematic, a child looking crushed, a crowd booing in unison, and one woman unraveling in the middle of it all. Philadelphia fans are infamous for their rowdiness. This is the city that once booed Santa Claus, that has a reputation for embracing chaos in the stands. And yet, even this crowd turned against her. Local insiders later joked, "If you can't win over Philly fans, you've really blown it. They love chaos, but they don't love clowns." That line summed up the mood perfectly. She wasn't seen as funny. She wasn't even seen as outrageous in a lovable way. She was seen as pathetic. And when the Phillies organization handed the boy a signed bat, the stadium erupted in cheers. The symbolism was clear to everyone there. The kid had won, and she had lost. The cameras caught every angle of her sulking, clutching her prize ball, while the boy walked away with something priceless. And that insult didn't fade after the game. It followed her online, amplified by memes, stitched into compilations, dissected by sports blogs, and replayed endlessly on morning shows. Her biggest mistake wasn't just stealing the ball, it was refusing to let it go. And in doing so, she turned herself into the main character of the night, a title no one ever wants in the age of viral media. By the end of the week, this wasn't just a Phillies story. It wasn't even just a sports story. It had become a cultural case study in how entitlement, technology, and public outrage collide. Think about it. 20 years ago, this incident might have been nothing more than a few angry fans complaining on the way home. But in 2025, every angle was filmed, every reaction was shared, and the clip was dissected across platforms until the internet had wrung every drop of insult from it. One foul ball turned a random spectator into a meme recognized worldwide. And that's the bigger lesson here. In the age of smartphones, there's no such thing as anonymity in public spaces. Every fan is a potential cameraman, every meltdown a potential viral moment. You don't just risk embarrassment in front of your section anymore. You risk being immortalized online, where millions can judge you forever. For the Phillies, Karen, the cost wasn't money or status. She didn't lose a corporate job or shareholders, like the CEO who stole the hat at the US Open. What she lost was anonymity. Her face, her voice, her behavior, all permanently stamped onto the internet. She can never attend a game again without wondering if someone will recognize her as that woman. And in some ways, that's a harsher punishment than losing a job. It's a reputation you can never erase. The cultural takeaway is just as important. These back-to-back scandals, the CEO at the tennis match and the woman at the Phillies game, showed how low the tolerance has become for adults taking over moments meant for kids. Sports are supposed to be one of the few spaces where innocence is celebrated, where kids get to feel like heroes. When that joy is stolen, fans unite in outrage. Teams know it too. That's why the Phillies acted fast. Why the signed bat wasn't just generosity, but damage control. Organizations now understand that every foul ball, every t-shirt toss, every autograph moment is a potential minefield. But beyond the teams, the internet itself is shaping new cultural rules. Entitlement used to go unchecked in stadiums. Now it gets magnified, roasted, and destroyed in real time. The Phillies. Karen became a symbol not because of the ball, but because of what her behavior revealed. That in today's world, selfishness doesn't just get noticed, it gets punished. One foul ball, one tantrum. That's all it took to transform a random fan into the face of viral infamy. She thought she had won a prize. Instead, she walked away with a cursed souvenir and a permanent spot in the internet's Hall of Shame. And maybe that's the clearest sign of how much sports culture has changed. It's not just about who wins the game on the field anymore. It's about who gets caught on camera in the stands and how quickly those moments can spiral out of control. The Phillies. Karen didn't just steal a ball. She lost her dignity, her anonymity, and any chance of walking into a ballpark unnoticed ever again. Meanwhile, the boy she tried to rob walked away with something priceless. Not just a signed bat, but the entire internet on his side. So what's the real lesson here? That in the modern age, entitlement isn't just embarrassing. It's dangerous. Every action is recorded. Every excuse can be disproven. And every meltdown can turn into a global spectacle overnight. And if one foul ball can do all of this, imagine what's waiting around the corner. Because the next sports scandal, the next viral meltdown, the next fan who forgets the cameras are watching, that moment is already loading in your feed.